Welcome to the Steam Next Fest, running from October 3rd till 10th, 2022. This is a collection of really awesome games, and they're available to play for free for a limited time. In this video, I'm going to take you through a top 10 list of some of the most popular, most downloaded, most played demos across the store, from action adventure to RPG strategy. You name it, we've got it, let's talk. And you're watching the first one right now on screen, so I shouldn't muck around. This is Dredge, and in this game, single-player experience, you unravel a mystery by captaining this fishing trawler across the oceans, remote islands, and also dredging the depths for treasures and dangers as well. Because of course, while you study your craft and fight to survive, there is also these sort of unfathomable events, these sea monsters, the storm, all of these other things to try and stop you from succeeding, completing your quests, and building your experience. It's a fun game, and I would recommend you try it, but of course, it is but one of 10 on this list. So let's move through to the second one. And for regular viewers of my channel, this one will need no introduction. This happy little chappy you're watching walking across the land is indeed, my lord, part of Manor Lords. Manor Lords is the most popular game as part of the Steam Next Fest in terms of wish lists and demo downloads, and basically everything. And for a good reason, I think. It's a pretty polished experience, although at the moment in this demo, it's all about its organic city building element. And, of course, its resource management too. We don't, however, see the game's combat system, medieval warfare, taking from the Total War style combat system, actually. More on that in separate videos. I've got those on my channel already. What you want to know here is what makes Manor Lords so great. It really is a fantastic medieval city builder. It's a relatively limited demo. There aren't any save functions, so you might want to prepare a little bit of time before you sit down with this one, but I promise you it will be worth it. Whether you're coming from city skylines, even Total War, or more broader strategy games, simulation games, I think you'll really enjoy the polished experience that is Manor Lords. Of course, available now, like all of these, but I'll reiterate it once more for the person in the comments, for 1 week only. Thirdly on my list, a completely different genre from Manor Lords and also a completely different setting. This is Forever Skies, an action-adventure game. It is, again, a single-player game, but with full controller support, and thank goodness for that. This one sort of bridges that survival adventure with base building. There are, of course, games like this already. You may be watching and thinking this looks a lot like Satisfactory, and I would agree with you there. If you enjoy Satisfactory, maybe also games in slightly different settings like Valheim, I think you might enjoy Forever Skies. A game that puts exploration and crafting at its heart and builds a fairly solid system around it, at least as far as we can tell from the somewhat limited but seems to be performing really well demo available now on Steam. Fourthly on my list, again in no particular order, is Wildfrost, although I have to admit this was one of the ones that I first downloaded myself. This is again another fairly interesting blend of roguelike and card battler. We've seen this before as well, thinking games like Dicey Dungeons. However, this one looks like it really takes an interesting take. Building your perfect deck for you, recruiting what has to be said as fairly cutesy card companions. We unlock a deck, expand and develop a town hub, and also, hopefully, end up with an endlessly replayable, if not a little actually hardcore, deck-building roguelike game out the other side. Next up, we have Aquatico. This is a city-building game developed by Digital Reef Games. Go figure, it's a deep sea, underwater city builder, where we build a city atop the ocean floor and face, of course, all of those hardcore challenges that come with trying to build a city under the sea. This one is a little bit more of a slightly more hardcore city building game, not quite as hardcore as something like Factorio, but you should enjoy it and the somewhat unique challenges that being under the sea delivers. Unlike a lot of the other games on this list, Ship of Fools is an online co-op game and a split-screen co-op game, as well as single player. Don't worry, all of us loners out there, we can still enjoy this one too. Ship of Fools is overwhelmingly downloaded. As I look at the numbers right now, live while recording this, it's incredible. It had almost no sort of a pre-attention or wish list or anything, and it just surged out of the gate. Ship of Fools is a roguelike seafaring game where you play as the Fools, go figure, the only foolish creatures brave enough to fight. You'll see some interesting art styles, level progression, 2D roguelike action adventure. It has a sort of a similar feel to it for a lot of these classic kind of 2D action games, but this one feels especially polished. Worth a look, I reckon. And what do you want to do when you get cancelled after attending the work Christmas party? It's Undecember. It's also the name of this game. Forgive the crappy joke. This is a really classic feeling, but slightly nuanced action RPG hack and slash. This will look very familiar just from watching some of the gameplay. However, it prides itself on having 4 main distinguishing features. Firstly, it's unchanged. The fun of hack and slash comes through in classical ways. Secondly, undefined. You have a freedom to select any kind of character or combat that you like. There are no set or defined classes of character in Undecember. You're free to build it up as you move through the game, from your skills to your gear. Thirdly, it's unlimited, and lastly, unstoppable. Those two somewhat similar, although the first one is referring to runes and skills that you can acquire and learn, and the second, of course, is referring to the fact that this is never ending. In terms of acts, bosses, and guilds, it looks really fun. I think you should try it. Almost starting to think that roguelike games are becoming the in thing. Here we have Against the Storm. This one has also received a lot of attention. It's been building up towards a release date very soon, actually. This is a dark fantasy city, or more like settlement builder, where you're faced with colonizing the worlds as the Queen's Viceroy, leading out from sort of a central city and expanding your civilization. There are, I think, 5 different biomes for you to explore. So each game is very different. That's where one of the roguelite elements come through. One of the other key things is that as you move through, you're not only building a city, but also a settlement with villages, populations to manage. No game seems to ever be the same, thanks to all of the different ways you can establish the city, meet different biomes, different threats, and of course, completely structure your settlement in many ways. It's a very interesting game. It's one that I intend to cover more of in the channel. And if you would like to see some gameplay in the meantime, I'd recommend you check out Potato McWhiskey's channel. There's some wonderful videos over there, and I'm sure there are many others across YouTube as well. I don't mean to talk down about anyone else, but I know that there are some good ones there. And do stay tuned, because this is really my kind of thing, and I'm really looking forward to settling in a little bit more into Against the Storm as we move through this very exciting period. I think it combines an interesting, fresh take on city building, 4X, and settlement games, and kind of slashes it all in together, creating its own slightly unique subgenre. For those looking for a little more of a hardcore, perhaps more grander strategy experience, then you should look towards Alliance of the Sacred Sons. This is probably the least well-known game on the list, or one of, at least. It's a sci-fi grand strategy game, RPG as well, you could argue, where you are the head of an interstellar corporation. And unfortunately, it ends with your demise. You manage feudal noble houses and the schemes of would-be usurpers as you also try and push out across that 4X landscape to expand your space galactic empire. So there's both a politics to it, of these great houses within the solar system, but also the 4X resource gathering, exploring, expanding elements at that map level, that tactical view. And then some really interesting details that you will have seen throughout the footage so far as well. Different characters with a load of detail behind them, different actions available. This is the kind of thing, of course, that we would expect from a grand strategy game. And it's the only real grand strategy game on this list. If you're a grand strategy gamer interested in the details, this one should probably be a no-brainer for you. It's, again, like I say, somewhat unknown. Maybe the best way to describe it is a pseudo blend between the classic kind of Master of Orion feel with maybe the character elements of something like Crusader Kings in a slightly Terra Invicta feeling world. If that wasn't throwing too many games at you at once, I think you'll really enjoy Alliance of the Sacred Sons. If you're a 4X grand strategy or even more broadly simulation gamer, I think you'll like it. And last but not least, we should finish with something a little relaxing, interesting, fun. This is Lego Bricktales. It combines what I would describe as a sandbox building game with a puzzle game at the same time. Go figure, it's Lego. Essentially, there are little worlds, challenges, what they would call Lego dioramas, carefully crafted biomes brick by brick, where there are puzzles within them that you have to solve, and you can solve them with your own creations, like this helicopter that's being built in front of us. There are a load of different minifigures, levels, stories, and puzzles buried within it. And of course, it has that sandbox element. There are quite a few sandbox games, actually, that I haven't been able to cover in this video, but that you could go and check out. There are loads of other games as part of the Steam Next Fest running from October 3rd to October 10th, 2022. And for now, I've been JumboPixel, and hopefully, if you try out at least 1 or 2 games on this list, you're going to have a good time. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.